Hello and welcome back to Talks with Tijjani. Thank you for all tuning in to the last two episodes. The response I got back has been absolutely fantastic and overwhelmed. And you know what they say is there's never a perfect time to put something out. And I took the plunge and I've done it. And the feedback's been really good. The first person I'm going to have on, well, the first person was my wife, but the second guest I'm going to have on is a lady that I met in college. And I've been following her journey from afar. So, you know, when you leave college, you don't really speak to each other. Then this whole thing called social media happened and you're just watching from people from afar. But her journey has been absolutely motivational, inspiring. And I think she's been very brave in talking about a thing that people don't like to talk about, money, that taboo of money. And she's been really honest about her journey and her relationship with money. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my second guest. I have to say that before the wife kills me. Tolu. Hi, Tolu.
Hey guys, hey everyone.
Thank you for joining us.
Having me.
This is all new to me, interviewing someone remotely, but I thought, you know what's the best way to get an external guest, not a family member on the show? And I thought, let me go, Tolu. I've been really amazed by your journey and just how honest and open you've been with it. And I've been your supporter in the background. You know, every morning I'll be messaging you, and we'll get onto that about me messaging you in the morning as well. But yeah, thank you for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure the information that you're going to give out to the people that are watching this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So tell us about yourself, because I don't want to spoil this. I don't want to do injustice of telling this story. I want you to tell us about yourself. Just first off about your background, you know, what you get up to, please.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Tolu, as Lawrence has already said. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I have 3 sons. And I've worked in marketing since graduating from university back in 2008. So for the past 10 plus years, I've worked as a marketing manager up until June this year. I was made redundant. So yeah, currently not working at the moment. But aside from my day job that I was doing, I also run my blog and my YouTube channel where I talk about my journey to financial freedom. So basically talking all different money topics.
Brilliant. Thank you. So the reason why I've got you on is your journey with money. It's not being the most traditional, should I say? Is that fair to say?
Very fair.
Do you want to tell us about your relationship with money and kind of how you started your blogging platform as well?
Okay, so to give you a bit of a backstory, I guess, today. So my money story, I guess, started way back when I was a little girl. So from young, my relationship with money had always been, money was hard to come by, money was hard to get. So anytime I did have money, I spent it. So started working at 16, worked part-time in a retail outlet. All my money used to go back to my employer because we used to get 20% discounts. So I'd literally spend all my money in the store straight away without being paid. And that pattern of behavior followed me into university. And at uni, same thing, working part-time, all the money I was making, I was spending. And it was actually in uni where I first got introduced to debt. So it was at uni where I was, at Freshers Week, you get approached by all these banks and they tell you, come sign up for an overdraft, sign up for these credit cards, interest-free. So all I'm hearing is free money, free money. So that's where I first got introduced to debt. And that's where I first fell into debt. And it was not until a couple of years after graduating that I was like, no, I can't be doing this debt thing anymore. I need to pay off those loans and overdrafts. At the time, it was like £3,000. But for me, that was a lot of money hanging over my head. So I needed to clear that. So I managed to clear it and everything was fine. Fast forward now, a few years later, got married. The same pattern of behavior in terms of spending all the money I had, I still took that into marriage. Whereas my husband had a very different idea when it came to money. He was more into saving, I was into spending. So I guess, up until I got married, I still continued that same pattern of behavior that I had as a child with money. It was always, when I had money, I spent it, and that was it. The only time I was good with money was when I was saving towards a particular goal. So when we first decided to buy our first home, that's when it was like, okay, I have something that I'm working towards that I need to save money for. So then it was a case, okay, let's save as much money as we can. And that's when I started learning about saving.
It's interesting you say that. In terms of when you left university with the amount, was it £3,000 of debt? Yeah, it's interesting because I made a conscious decision of not to leave university with, apart from my student loan, debt. So I made that decision to kind of stay at home. Yeah. So my decision on university was based on financial, or like, I'm going to stay at home and I'm going to get the maximized student loan, and I'm going to save that student loan, and I'm actually going to work and use that money. And I think the reason, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Sheridan would probably call me tight, you know, but I was like, I'm not going to use that student loan. And I think my relationship with money came because growing up, we didn't have money. And I was very kind of mindful of like, I don't want to be in a position of never having money. I wasn't, you know, obsessed with money, but it was just literally like, I'd rather just work. And I mean, even like little things like to now, not today, but like the value of money in terms of even when we got Chinese, what I used to do, instead of using a big spoon and like a spoon fork debate, let's not get into that, I would use a little teaspoon to make it last longer.
Excuse me, you can't be serious. You cannot be serious.
In terms of things like that, I was like very kind of like boom.
Oh, really?
With that. But yeah, it's interesting because we went to uni at a time where the student loan, the fees? Student fees were about 1,000 something. Yeah.
1,300 or something like that.
Yeah. So I just think it's really important that actually people know about, it is okay to leave university with debt. I'm not saying that my way is the way to do it. It's just that if it's manageable. But I'm gonna leave that to you because I mean, you got some gems that you're dropping as well. So with that, and with the £3,000 of debt, and then you said you got married, your husband was a saver. I read somewhere, or I watched somewhere in one of your YouTube videos, was then that debt amassed into a bigger debt.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Okay, so fast forward now. This is where it gets real. So initially, so that debt, like I said, I paid that off. So I paid that off quite early. Did I pay it before we got married? I'm pretty sure, yes, I had paid it off. So when I got married, I didn't have any debt. So that £3,000 paid it off. And so I didn't carry that into marriage. So in the first few years of marriage, we were debt free. We didn't have any debt. We were really, because my husband, like I said, he's very good with money. He doesn't believe in being in debt, and he's so into saving, whereas I was just into spending. So we never ever overextended ourselves, but equally we were never really saving big, if that makes sense. So we were like literally working, getting paid, spending the money, and the cycle continued. So it was like paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. So it was only fast forward, I think maybe 3 years into marriage, and we were like, we want to get on a property ladder. I'm kind of a bit of the story, but just to get to the main point. Yeah, so we were like, let's get on a property ladder. We want to buy our own home. So it's like, okay, we want to buy our home, but at the moment we're paying so much for accommodation, so much for all the bills. Obviously, you know how much it goes into like renting a place and having your own property. So all our money at the time was tied up in living expenses and just living, because back then we were living. That's when we used to go on holiday like 2, 3, 4 times a year. Like we had no kids back then, so we were just enjoying our lives. And then fast forward, we were like, okay, now we want to save money to buy a house. And at the time, I didn't know about budgeting and things like that. So back then, I thought I didn't have enough disposable money, or we didn't have enough disposable money to save up to buy a house. So we decided to move back in with my in-laws. So we moved back in with the in-laws, saved up a lot of money in order to get the deposit to buy our house. Okay, cool. So far so good. Everything was going well. We saved up all the money. We saved up the deposit. We saved up the stamp duty, surveyor fees, etc. We had all the money we needed to save. Okay, so now comes time to get the house. We put in the offer got accepted, we got the property. But between the time when we had the offer accepted and we got the keys, it was like another year basically, because there was loads of drama with the people selling the house, etc., etc. So anyway, quite a long story short, when it came
at this point, you were still debt free as well?
Yes. So we saved up the money for the house, everything was fine, like everything was going according to plan. Actually, no, I'm actually lying. So we did actually have at that time a credit card, I think. Yeah, so that was the thing that we had maybe a couple of grand on the credit card, and that's because I'd put a holiday on it. Yeah, I'd booked a holiday on that credit card. So other than that, we didn't have any debt. So we were like, okay, no, that's fine. We'll pay that off once we've sorted the house out. Okay, so fast forward now, we got the house, and the house needed work done because the people that were living there had just literally completely trashed the place. Like it was literally a mess. The roof had caved in the kitchen. It was a right off. So yeah, we was like, no, we need to sort this place out. Okay, in hindsight, we didn't need to go about it the way we did, but obviously hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it? So at the time, it was like, okay, let's take out some loans from the bank to pay off, to refurbish the house. So that's when we really got into proper debt, because that's when we were like, okay, let's take out a loan to refurbish the house. We took out the initial loan, and that wasn't enough to cover all the work. So then we took out a second loan, and then that still wasn't really enough to do it. So then we had credit cards, and we were using that to pay for things as well. So in addition to renovating the house, we then needed to refurbish the house, as in furnish the house, like to get bits for the house. So then all that kind of stuff was like putting that on a credit card. Like I got that really, really luxurious carpet that your feet sinks into. Mm-hmm. That carpet was like £3,000. So we literally was blowing through money that wasn't ours in order to get the house the way we wanted it, kind of thing. So yeah, that's how I ended up with £36,000 worth of debt.
Wow. And yeah, just even me just hearing 36, I'm like getting heart palpitations already. Because like me, I'm just like, if you are Jared, I don't like anything over my head. Like I just don't sleep well. So wow, 36, and that is just, I think, a jump from being a couple of grand in your credit card, and you can actually see how you're going to pay that couple of grand. And then when that builds up like 36 grand, like, wow. When you saw that figure, like, when you like put them together, because I imagine there wasn't in one place.
It wasn't in one place, so we didn't realize how bad it was until we were ready to now sort it out. Because at the time we knew we had debt, because obviously we had taken out 2 big loans. So in my head, I thought maybe 20-something thousand. Even that is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd say 20-something thousand like it's £20, but even that 20-something thousand is what I thought it was. But then when we actually did the figures, it was like 36,600 or something pounds. It was like,
yeah, wow. So once you had found it was 36 grand, what was the kind of conversation? Was it, I'm gonna bury my head in the pit? Or what was the plan of action? What was you thinking at the time? What were the emotions going through your head then?
It was a stressful time. I can't even lie. I can laugh about it now because we're outside of it. But trust me, at the time, it wasn't a laughing matter. Like it was really, really tough times, because it was like there were times when it was like, okay, are we even gonna be able to pay the mortgage this month? There was times when it was like we had missed the payment, and then it was like the next payment. So the way the bank did it is like basically the payment was supposed to come out on the 1st of the month. If you missed the 1st, then they try again on the 10th. And then if you miss that, that's when it's like a 1 default kind of thing. And then I mean, right out kind of thing. So we defaulted on the first payment, and then the second time they took it, there was enough money to pay it. And that's where we had got to. That's how bad it got. Like the point that this house that we saved up so much money for, invested so much in, we were almost going to lose it all kind of thing. So it was like, okay, we really need to do something about it. And at that time, I was pregnant with my second son, I believe. So it was like about to go on maternity leave. So now we're going to go from 2 incomes to 1 income, and we're barely able to pay off these loans and pay for this house. I should have mentioned, actually, which is what I did mention before, the whole strategy that we had in place before we took out those loans was that we were going to get lodgers to live with us. So we were going to rent out 2 rooms in the house and get lodgers to then pay off the loans. So that was the master plan that we had. But no one wanted to live with us and the 2 children.
So once you had realised it was that amount of debt, what was your plan of action? When did you say, right, we've got to sort this out? I just can't live with this over my head.
Yeah, so like I said before, so it was getting to the point that we were barely able to pay the mortgage. And then it got to the point where it's like, okay, what are we actually going to do about this? And around that time, so this was 2 years in actually, yes, I can tell you exactly what it was. So for 2 years of us being in this house, we had that debt hanging over our head, and we were just about making the mortgage payments and missing a payment. And it was a mess for about a couple of years. And it was coming towards the second year of us being in this house that we were like, okay, it's time to a year in actually. So it was a year into being in the house, and we're like, okay, we've got a year left until we're going to remortgage this house. But it's like, are we even going to make it to that year? We might lose this house, we get a chance to remortgage it. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? And I remember around that time, my husband discovered Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you know anything about him, but Dave Ramsey, he talks about basically how to get out of debt and how to achieve financial freedom. And he has a book the Total Money Makeover. So my
Okay.
husband that book, the Total Money Makeover, and he was like, okay, we actually need a Total Money Makeover. And I read the book too, and I started researching online and started looking more into Dave Ramsey and what he talks about, and seeing different people's testimonials of how they had so much debt. So people that were in America, like my debt, 36K, I thought was a lot, but American and their student loans and stuff like that, their debts are crazy. So you will see people with debts of like £100,000 and $100,000, sorry, and they're paying it off within like 2-3 years. So I'm like, okay,
Wow.
they can do that, then surely we can pay off this £36,000 too. So it would be a change of mind. It's like, okay, no, we're gonna need to cut back, make serious cutbacks, serious lifestyle changes in order to start attacking this debt. And so that's what we had to do. So we literally had to like just get our heads down. First of all, we had to realize that it was actually 36,000 and not 24 that I thought it was.
Almost 10 grand off.
It was like, what? Like, how did we get here? But that was the first step. It was actually realizing how much the amount was. Okay, this is what we're dealing with. Now steps to actually get out of it. We're literally making cutbacks. My husband was working all the hours God sends. Like, luckily, the job that he does is a job that he can do overtime as well, so he can make more money. So he was doing that, working, making more money. Any extra money he was making, we're throwing it at the debt. And that's what we did. We started paying off the debt bit by bit, from the smallest debt all the way to the largest debt, and then we were ready to remortgage about a year later. And at that time is when we took out money from the house to then pay off the balance of the debt, and then we were like sorted. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing that again.
I was gonna say, how did that feel when you had paid off that debt? Like, did you have a little party?
I can't even express it, Lawrence. Like, I can't even put to words how it felt to just know that nobody's coming chasing me for any more money. Like, it was just such a big relief, such a big relief.
I can only imagine, honestly, I can only imagine on that one. And during that debt journey, was this something you shared with your family or friends, or was it when you started your blogging platform, people started to understand how much strain and stress you were under with that?
Yeah, nah, nobody knew, you know. It's so funny that like none of my family knew and none of my friends knew. From the outside looking in, you wouldn't even believe it when I tell you, like, what? You guys go through that? How? Like, but you was on holiday, but you was you'll never know. Like, you just bought a house, you just furnished your house. How do you guys not have money? Like, it just, nobody knew at the time. We just went through it together, kind of thing. It's only once we were out of there and I started looking into other ways to make income online and things like that, that's when I decided to actually start sharing my financial journey more openly. Like, I take my hats off to people, because in the debt-free community, there's people that are actually going through it right now, sharing their journey along the way. And I'm like, wow, it's so brave of them, because I couldn't have imagine if I was doing that 36K debt now, sharing so openly, I don't think I would have been able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting situation, because I think there are a lot of people who are in debt, but sometimes don't acknowledge that they're in debt. It's the also classic scenario of keeping up with the Jones, you know, of like, this is a lifestyle I'm expected to live because I've gone to university, I've got this job, and the norm says once you're in that scenario, you need to go on holiday 3 times a year, you know, you need to be doing a massive shop weekly and X, Y, and Z, you know. Yeah, because I think that's a classic thing. And like when as I'm a former teacher, I just think the teaching of financial literacy is so important, because I remember the first job that I got, and I remember working so many hours, just working, and I'm calculating the hours, calculating it, and going, this is what I'm going to spend it on. And then I get my pay slip, and I'm like, I look at it, and then I got my manager, I went to him.
This isn't fair. Just imagine all my sufferings, all my struggles, all my hopes, all my aspirations, Mama.
Everything's taking money from me. He's like, no, that's tax, my friend. And I'm like, what? Who's taxing me? Because no one had told me that is part of the thing. So I'm thinking, why have I worked so hard and this government or someone over there is just taking money from me? What right do they have? And that's the whole thing of like, the basics of financial literacy, of like that not being explained to us. And even things like where I know some people will swear blind about not going to have a credit card, but there are some advantages to having a credit card. Obviously, if you can manage the debt of your financial, what's it called, rating, should I say?
Credit scoring.
Credit scoring, there we go, credit scoring. So I learned after that, it was like, actually, I'm going to get a credit card, but I'm going to use it to pay for something that I always will need to pay up and I need to have the money for. So I would use my credit card for my travel card, for example, or petrol, something like that, because I knew I need to have that money to do what I'm doing there, you know. When you did share it with your family, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, I apologize. When you did share it, or when they read it on the blog, what was their reaction?
Well, my sister, she was really supportive actually. She was shocked actually. When she saw that debt-free videos, I made a video talking about we were in £36,000 worth of debt. She called me straight away. She was like, what? Where? Oh. She was so baffled. My brother's the same, like, yeah. Even
they found out when you released the video?
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, yeah, they actually did. I never told anyone about it until, they just watched it on the video. Same thing with my friends as well. They were just like, Tolu, why don't you call me? Why are you posting online? Like,
sometimes it's easier doing that, isn't it? Like, okay, it's out there now. You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's how they found out. We never actually sat them down and had conversations with them like, oh yeah, this is what we're going through, or this is what we've just been through. They just all found out from YouTube. Wow.
So one of the things I've seen is like your weekly shopping and your budget strategy. How challenging is that to keep to a budget, knowing that you have this plan? I suppose the months are kind of try. Let's cut out. Let's start there. Stop there. Let's start again. So knowing that you have this budget, how challenging is it to stick to that budget? Do you ever not stay within your budget, and are you hard on yourself?
Oh, all the time. Listen, the hardest part of my budget. So the budgeting method I use is a zero-based budgeting method. So the idea is that you give all your income a job to do before the month starts, so that it doesn't come the end of the month you think, where's all my money gone? You can afford your money before you spend it. So yeah, on paper it all looks fantastic. I have all these spending plans, but then by the end of the month, I never actually stick to my budget categories. Like, initially I used to beat myself up about it a lot, but now I'm starting to appreciate that whilst I may not get it perfect, I'm still doing a lot better than I was doing before. So like, even if I take my food budget, for example, that is literally the biggest pain right now of my existence, because I could never get it under budget. Like, but at the same time, the food budget that I have is a very strict budget, because even when I tell people about food budget, they're like, how are you feeding a family of 5 on £200? It doesn't make sense. Like, I use that as one plan.
Sorry, how much is what? Sorry.
£200 a month is our food budget. Yes, for a family of 5. Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
You showed me to have conversations about what our food budget. There's only 2 of us at this moment in time, and we're spending about £70 a week. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, my wife's got some bougie lifestyle, man. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that and get myself into trouble. So exactly. So as you like what you're just saying there, so our food budget is a tight budget as it is. So even if I do go over by 20, 30, 40 pounds, it's still a lot lower than it was a year ago or even 2 years ago when we were spending like £300-400 on food every single month. So yeah, my budget I don't always stick to budget, but at the same time, it's a lot better than it was before. So I don't beat myself up about it, because at least I'm doing it. 2 years ago, do you think I knew what a budget was? Like, I knew what a budget was, but did I have a budget? No. It was just, I know how much I earn and I know how much I spend. That was it. Whereas now it's like, no, I feel like I have a lot more control over my money. So yeah. And with your budgeting now, do you write it down? Do you think it's important for people to write it down? Because I know a lot of people, like I personally, just like I budget in my head, that was just like, this is what's going there.
Yeah.
You like people to write it down?
In some way, shape or form. It doesn't have to be literally, oh gosh, I can't talk. It doesn't have to literally be pen and paper, but there's apps that you can use for it. Like apparently Monzo has really good budgeting system. I personally use Excel or Google Sheets for my budget. I just like the idea. I like physically actually knowing where my money's going. Like seeing, okay, is how much I have to spend. This is how much I spent on food. This is how much I spent on kids. This is how much you have for fun. This is how much you have for saving. And it just helps me have control over the money rather than the money just having control over me. So yeah, and I think budgeting is really, really important. It definitely saved the day when it came to us getting out of debt and in general managing our finances as a household. Like, I can't believe it took us 7-8 years into marriage before we finally started budgeting this way. And I'm like, oh, if we were doing this married by now, mate, you would have known.
50,000. 150,000, yeah. It was done. Belongs to me. I'm rich. I'm rich.
Wow, did you hear that? You wouldn't know me. I'll be balling. Is that how it is, Tolu? Like, if you're balling, see you later, guys. You know.
Listen.
So I know you talk about financial freedom.
Yes.
And I think financial freedom is very broad. So I think, what does that look like to you?
Yes. So for me, financial freedom is literally, I say literally so much, I'm so sorry. That's like my crutch word. But financial freedom to me means being free to live life on my own terms. So not having to keep trading my time for money for the rest of my life or until retirement age. That to me would be financial freedom. Me generating enough income online via my own side hustles, my own business ventures, that it gives me an income back without me having to keep working and exchanging my time for money, so that I can then be free to actually live my life. Like, I don't want to just work until I drop kind of thing. I want to live life on my terms. Not saying I don't want to work anymore, but I want to do what I want to do kind of thing. Because I think it's important to work, but at the same time, it's like, I want to be free to, if I don't want to work tomorrow, then I don't have to work tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think that's interesting there, because I think the way how I work for myself and the hours that I put in, I think I take reference from my parents of not wanting to have to work as long as they may have to work, and also being able to help them out and support them and reward them for everything that they've done for me. So I think that's kind of the thing that motivates me to actually be like, put the hours in now, because I don't want to be working at 75 and breaking my back, you know. So no, that's honestly, this talk already has been so insightful. I think like we have to do like a follow-up interview and see where you are in 2 years, to see if you are, you know, on that island, because you now are like walking, you know. So one of the things we like to end, or the theme I want to start on ending our interviews on, is what advice would you give to your younger self? Now, the reason why I'm asking that question is, if you've been following Just a Guy, we're a social enterprise and we work with disengaged students and young people. So I'm keen to make sure that any advice that we round up on is something that they could relate to and take away from that. So hand it over to you.
Okay. But it's so funny you said that, because I actually have a video that I made recently on my YouTube channel where I give 18 things that I wish I knew about money when I was 18, like advice that I would give to young 18-year-olds. And there's so many things that I could touch on, but just to pick two of them. How many did you say, 2 or 3?
As many as you want.
One? Oh my gosh.
That's okay. But look, if you got knowledge, drop that knowledge.
Nah, okay. Advice to an 18-year-old, I'd say is compound interest, the power of compound interest. That is something I only learned like a couple of years ago, and I wish I knew that at 18. And that is literally the fact that your money can make money and that money makes money. I didn't know about that until literally a year ago. I didn't know that. And I was like, wow, if I knew that when I was 18, I would have focused on saving a lot more money when I was younger. Because when I was 18, I didn't save anything. So definitely when you're working and when you're young, save your money. Not to say you shouldn't enjoy your life. Obviously, enjoy your life. Yes, you can have fun, but allocate money to save it. Particularly if you can, save 10% of that money first. So pay yourself 10% first, and then you can do what you like with the rest of it. But you take that money, invest that money, let that money grow. The younger you are, the more disposable money you actually have. So take that money and start investing in your future while you can.
I love that. Pay yourself first. I really like that.
Yeah.
Tolu, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Talks with Tijjani. Just before I let you go, Where can people find out more information about you? Let me just put your social media on at the bottom. Guys, go and follow Tolu. It's absolutely, her page is popping. You know, I take notes, I save posts from it, and I'm sharing to my story consistently. So please go and follow her on all those social media platforms at Frimpong. And where else can we find more information about you, Tolu?
So I have my blog, tolufrimpong.com, where I share content all around personal finance, budgeting, frugal living, and also my YouTube channel as well. So if you just type Tolu Frimpong into YouTube, you'll come up with my channel. Have loads and loads of videos on there. I just passed 50 videos the other day, actually. Yay! There's loads and loads of content on there for you guys to enjoy. So I cover everything from budgeting, meal prepping, frugal living. I've got frugal DIY projects on there as well. So if you like doing a little DIY, yeah, check me out on YouTube and on Instagram as well, like Lauren said. So yeah, follow me everywhere. I'm everywhere. All the social media platforms, you'll find me on there.
I'm telling you, this lady is a hustler, man. Like, you can actually go and see her page. She's a hustler. Tolu, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show, and we'll speak soon. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hey, bye.
Bye.